I'm not super confident based on the experience with Siri right now. Like I'm still not even super confident if I ask Siri to turn on my light that it will. If I had to do that 10 out of 10 times, would you bet your life on it that it would do it 10 out of 10 times? No way. No way.
Not even like 7 out of 10 times. Dude. You know?
Unless you just don't like life.
The new iPhone potentially coming.
The new iPhone SE. The new iPhone SE.
Ooh, wait. Let's match. I think I got mine too. Look at that.
You got your SE? Oh, sweet. This is one of the best phones ever, man.
I think this is an iPhone 5S, but we'll pretend it's an SE.
Hold on. How do you oh, look on the back. Yeah, it's a 5S. Because SE actually has SE on it. See?
Okay, yeah. Mine's definitely a 5S then.
Yeah.
But they look the same. You got the rose gold. That used to be, dude, they used to be the best.
This was my favorite phone this was groundbreaking. When it came out, it was like, because it was like the power of an iPhone, was it 6S?
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Yeah.
In the form factor of this guy.
It's my favorite form factor. I mean, clearly it's everybody's favorite because we went back to it, you know?
Right. And we still have this. Like, I don't have all my old iPhones, but I have this one, and I have like the original
one I have. Oh,
you have the original
one?
Yeah. Messing everything up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the OG.
Oh, man.
The 30 pin on the bottom. Yeah. And the SE.
That's crazy. Look at that little camera on both of them. I know, man. I like this thing because it's flat. The camera's flat. That's one reason I really like this. You know, I recently turned this one on, and like, it still works. This is the 5S, so it's even older. It still works. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you can make a phone. I don't know what kind of antennas it has in here. I don't know if you can make a phone call. Maybe you can, but
you have a SIM card.
It connects to the internet with Wi-Fi. Yeah, it connects to the Wi-Fi. I put like a wallpaper on it. It still works. It's cool. It's crazy.
It's my daily driver, man.
I don't know about all that, but I do think the iPhone SE is basically going to be this guy.
Yes,
the 13 mini, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I'm not going to complain about with one camera.
So will it be? Yeah. Will it? What's the dimensions though? Like, will it be the size?
That's a good question.
Because I think it would be more like the. Would it be more like the 14, the iPhone?
Yeah, I think it's going to keep the 6.1 inch display, right?
Yeah,
like the normal, or was it 5.8? I don't think it's going to be small. I don't think it's going to be 13 mini size because 13 mini is like 5.3 inches. It's not going to be that small.
No,
but it's going to have that design. It's going to have Face ID, so it's going to have a notch. I don't think it's going to have a dynamic island. Mm-mm. And then it'll probably have. It's got to run Apple Intelligence. Apple's not going to release anything.
Oh yeah,
moving
for
forward.
Sure.
So it's got to have A18, A17,
A18.
Yeah, right.
I believe. Yep.
So it's gonna be a little powerhouse.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think they're going to sell a gang of these. It's going to be crazy. So you get all of that, plus you get USB-C as well.
Yeah.
You also lose the home button as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
RIP.
Yeah. I think this is going to sell a lot. And if they start at the same price, which is the current iPhone SE is $429, I believe. Yeah. And because the original or the iPhone SE second generation was $399, and then they raised the price by $30 with the third
$429, yeah.
$429. So this one, if it's $450 or lower, I think they're going to sell a ton of these things.
You see, yeah, right now $429. I agree, and I bet you it'll come with 128 gigs base storage because they can't do 64 right now. They got rid of all those.
Yeah.
So I think, if they keep it, dude, if they keep it under 500, even $499, I think would be because you get Face ID, like you said. It'll probably still be 60 hertz. Of course, it'll still be 60 hertz, but USB-C, better camera, Apple Intelligence, all that good stuff. $499 for 128 gig model, I think, is where Apple's going to live. If they go cheaper than that, amazing.
Yeah. I don't know. $499. I'd say that's possible. I mean,
what is their cheapest non-SE iPhone that they sell? The 14 they sell, and that's $599.
Yeah, so we know for sure it's going to be less than that, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, and then I wonder if when the iPhone SE comes out, do they drop the 14 entirely, especially if it comes with the same exact chassis?
Yeah.
You know? And then we'll have USB-C on all iPhones moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
What a world.
This is going to be a massive upgrade from the third generation. I was never a fan of the iPhone SE second gen. Like, we already talked about how much we were a fan of this first gen iPhone SE. It is great. But the second gen and the third gen, they had the same, I think it was based on the iPhone 8 chassis. And I was not a fan, I have to say. Like, it's like probably one of the ugliest iPhone designs of all time.
It's very forgettable. It's just very meh, you know?
Ugh, yeah.
So I'm glad that they're going back to, well, I mean, you know, they're 2025-ifying it with the harder corners, the fact that it can stand on its own technically, no more rounded off edges and things like that. And yeah, it'll just fit into the family. And I'm just curious, again, I'm going to be curious to know about pricing, what limitations they put on it, depending on pricing, if any, because they got to figure out a way to still push people up the iPhone ladder price point wise, you know, like give me a reason to still get the 16 and the 15s. Because if it gives you everything that you need out of a iPhone SE, like the USB-C that we're talking about, Face ID, the 128 gigs of storage, and the average person walks into a T-Mobile or Verizon, why not go with that one? Why not go with the SE?
Like, it's in my interest, I guess, that people buy the latest phones, just as someone who covers this kind of stuff. But I kind of hate recommending that people do that every year. I don't recommend that people do that every year. I think it's really dumb, fiscally, and just from like a e-waste sort of thing.
True.
Like, phones should last for. I mean, they last for a long time. They're
especially nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So.
Now, one thing that supposedly is coming to this new iPhone, it's going to be the first iPhone with Apple's in-house modem. Mm-hmm. So it won't have the Qualcomm modems for 5G connectivity. It'll have an in-house modem. So I've been thinking to myself, what's the big deal about it? And B, how is it going to affect the end user? And like what ways or what benefits are we going to see from it? Like, what do you think?
I don't think it's going to, well, hopefully it won't affect the end user at all, because that's really what Apple wants. They don't want, like, it's not bringing anything new to the table, but you also don't want it to bring problems to the table too, which is a potential, right? Given the fact that I think this is remember that iPhone with the Intel modem? There was, can't remember what generation that was. Maybe it was the iPhone
the one with
8
with the antenna bands being blocked by your hand.
No, that was the holding it wrong. That was the iPhone 4.
I remember that. Yeah.
No, but this is a few years later. Apple actually tried to diversify their modems, so they were using, I can't remember the reason why, but they were using some Intel modems and some Qualcomm modems in the same iPhone.
Probably like the whole, like the Snapdragon Exynos situation Samsung was doing for forever.
Yeah, so it was basically like there were some problems with the Intel. I can't remember. It's kind of hazy right now, but I just remember hearing about issues with the Intel modems, and then Apple ended up not using that. And I think they actually purchased the Intel modem. Like, I think they purchased like that whole division from Intel, and that's what is being used here to make this modem. But this is years in the making. I mean, we've been hearing about this. They've been wanting to get out from under Qualcomm's thumb for years, right? Because there's huge royalties that they have to pay, huge licensing fees that they have to pay Qualcomm to use that modem. And they don't want to have to continue doing that. Apple is all about trying to like bring everything in-house.
Baby. Yeah.
Right. But that being said, this has proven to be obviously more difficult than perhaps they expected at first.
Yeah.
So that's why it's taken so long. I mean, we've been hearing about this for years and years and years, and now we're just finally going to be getting an iPhone with Apple's in-house modem, and it's on the lowest end iPhone at that. So you're not going to have things like millimeter wave and stuff like that. So there.
Yeah, I wonder what the thought process is with putting it in the cheapest model. Is it?
I know what it is.
Yeah, tell me.
They don't want to risk. Dude, if you put this, number one, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles of the latest and greatest Qualcomm modems, right? So
yeah,
you can't put that in your flagship. But not only that, like, what if there's issues that stem from this? Man, that would be an absolute disaster. Like
for
that
sure.
would,
especially in the $1,300 Pro Max or something, to have issues.
That's a non-starter.
Not that it's justifiable to be like, oh, you bought the cheapest one, so of course there's going to be issues. You know, not that that should be the slogan or whatever. But I agree. And because the rollout will be not limited, but like obviously not everybody's going to have an iPhone SE right away. It'll be kind of like a staggered rollout, I'm sure, as they start to sell them. So if something does happen, you know, the first or second day, they can quickly kind of push a software update to fix most of the issues, hopefully.
Yeah. It's not their flagship. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
but I wonder if it's going to bring, because again, like we said, Apple likes to cover or own their entire stack, both hardware, software wise, and they've been trying to do that and get everything in house. I wonder if it is going to create any sort of additional ecosystem moments for us. I'm just trying to think of like what that would be and what that could unlock for us. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. Or is it literally just like, hey, we want to keep our margins. Hey, we want to own things.
Yeah, I don't think
nothing's going to change for you guys.
Exactly. Even the price, like even if like we're not going to pass that on to you, like we're keeping that. And
our shareholders
I guess
get that one.
That kind of makes sense given the fact that the iPhone SE, I would imagine the margins are quite a bit lower than the flagship.
True.
But yeah, I guess the only, just trying to think of what could possibly be an advantage. Battery life, I guess. They because it's all in-house and they could optimize it, but I would think that would be relatively negligible. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know enough about like modems and stuff to know. I know they do use a lot of battery, right? Like
like clearly,
especially like 5G.
If you're streaming on if you're streaming on 5G versus Wi-Fi, your phone's gonna die faster on 5G.
Yeah. Sure. So there may be some advantages there just because it's all under the same stack, so to speak. Mm-hmm. My big thing, though, that I think about is Cellular Max. That's where Cellular Max. What do you think about that?
What is Cellular Max?
A cellular MacBook.
Oh, Mac.
Yeah. No, not you thought I said Max.
Like MAX. Yeah, Max. You know, with the M4 Max and you know. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, okay. Yes. Absolutely 100%. Especially a MacBook Air. Jeez. Give me the 12-inch MacBook with the built-in modem, 5G modem, running Mac OS on like an M3, M4. That would sell like hotcakes at $1,000. I think that's been one of Apple's biggest misses, like not including that in there. I don't know why. They've never put it on their iPads, which run the same chipset, which are just as expensive on the iPad Pro side. Like, why not just throw it in a MacBook? Like, they're not going to cannibalize anything. I don't see any issues with doing it. What are your thoughts? Like, why they haven't done it yet?
I would say one would be cost. They don't want to pay Qualcomm anymore. Like to me, like an iPad is sort of like I won't say it's a large iPhone, but it's like more of a mobile device.
Yeah.
Whereas the MacBook, like, it's more of office sort of. Yeah, obviously it's on the go, but I think probably the number one reason they just don't want to pay Qualcomm for that. Mm-hmm. And there's probably other reasons as well.
Yeah. But I mean, that would be a big deal. If they brought that over, I think that would be a huge win for Apple. And a lot of people would gravitate towards that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
You know, especially on the move. Because, I mean, one of my biggest regrets ever was not getting cellular on my iPad, especially if somebody uses their iPad mobile a lot. Mm-hmm. Because of just getting, like, there's one thing, like, people just say, oh, I'll just hotspot it and save the $200 upgrade or whatever, or save the $10, $15 a month in service costs.
but it just doesn't work the same.
No, not quite.
They've made it.
It's gotten a lot better.
In terms of connectivity and how it'll automatically connect to your iPhone if you are in a place that doesn't have Wi-Fi with your iPad or even your MacBook. But it's still not the same. It doesn't work as fast. It doesn't work as well. There's definitely like a break in the connection. And having it built in, I think, would just be a game changer. And it'll just be much more frictionless, way less steps, and it would just work better.
It's just one less thing, one less mental thing you have to worry about, right? Because I can't tell you how many times that I forget that my iPad is not cellular enabled, and I'm actually no, my iPad is cellular enabled, but I canceled the cellular plan because I was like, I'm not paying for this.
Yeah, for sure.
So that really illustrates it, because at one time I did have cellular on it, and it was just seamless, right? And then now when I pull it out and I start using it, I'm like, all right, why isn't it? I forget. Oh no, I forgot. I have to hotspot, and it is very seamless for the most part, but it's still not the same.
And like, I feel like we still haven't even figured out hotspotting, because my phone, when I hotspot, still gets extremely hot. It drains the battery so fast. I mean, I haven't hotspotted probably in a little bit, but probably like a month or two ago I did, and it still gets very hot. And then I'm also not on an unlimited hotspot plan. I think I have like 5 gigs, which for most people I guess is more than enough. But if you go over, it's going to cost you money, or it'll slow all the way down to like the 256 kilobyte speeds, which snail speed nowadays, you know?
Yeah.
How much would you be willing to pay extra to get it into your MacBook?
150, 200 at most.
Well, it's 200 right now to put it on your iPad.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
Kind of like, expensive.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at most, at max.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe if they do bring it in-house, they'll hopefully pass those cost savings over to us. But we'll see.
Right. Sure they will. So apparently this iPhone SE4 will be announced as early as next week. And going on sale later in the month. So that according to Bloomberg. So we shall see.
We'll pick some up once they come out. So definitely stay tuned for that.
Yep.
I want to see your review on that for sure. And then to see what the kind of quality we get on the other pieces of hardware. Like, how good is the camera going to be comparative to the other iPhones? It's supposed to get a 48 megapixel shooter, which is, what we have on the iPhone, on the Pro Maxes for the main shooter. So will it be the same, in terms of quality? And just the little nuances of every day with the iPhone. Like, what are you giving up truly for that price point? Because you got to be giving up something. But we'll see. We'll find out once we get them.
So with that being said, you mentioned that these iPhones are going to support Apple Intelligence more than likely. I mean, it would be super weird if they did not. I think it's a foregone conclusion that they will support Apple Intelligence. So my question is Apple Intelligence worth it? Like, if you have an iPhone SE3 now and it's working perfectly fine, would you recommend updating to the iPhone SE4 just to get Apple Intelligence?
The way that it is right now, and we're on 18.3, no, I don't really think so. I keep trying to use it, but then I just keep, even though it is integrated with ChatGPT, like that's what they're using as the AI, I still just gravitate to the ChatGPT app whenever I need some sort of AI assistant, or whenever I need to, like, I don't know, maybe it's just the way that there's too much friction in how it's being used, even though there is like a dedicated visual intelligence button and being able to just summon Siri with your voice or double tapping the home bar. There are things that the way that I communicate with ChatGPT, like for instance, right? I'm looking to see maybe relocating the family, and I give ChatGPT like, all right, wife, daughter, schools need to be good, price points of house of living and things like that, and I'll literally have a conversation about what ChatGPT recommends, where I should go, or give me some options of what's a place to go in the US. And I tried that same conversation with Apple Intelligence through like the Siri prompts and the Siri kind of UI, and it just doesn't retain anything. It keeps breaking. The second I like move away, the whole conversation gets lost. There's no context that stays. So right now there's just too much friction, and it's not as easy and seamless to use.
And there's I agree. And there's been other tests recently where I think ones were asking about the Super Bowl. I think it was John Gruber. He posted about that, and it was like it got it wrong on several more than several. Like win or who won the Super Bowl, years back, things like that. So, but it's interesting though. I'm starting to like think about this. Recently, I posted a video about iOS 18.3, and I showed the debug screen for ChatGPT integration. And if you look at that screen, Apple has a ton of like parameters that they're like, basically when you query ChatGPT through Apple Intelligence, it's being filtered through like a ton of different parameters that, from what I can gather, this is what it's being filtered through. Like Apple has very specific like requirements as far as how the response is to be formatted and what it should not say, what it should say, what it should not infer, what it should all these different like parameters that it goes through. So it's almost as if, it's using ChatGPT, but through an Apple lens, so to speak, through an Apple filter.
And I think it's because they want to make sure, A, that something isn't said on an Apple device, even though it is ChatGPT saying it, and we're aware of that. If it comes through Apple Intelligence, people are going to be like, wow, Apple did this. Like, it would be a huge PR nightmare if something bad were to be said, even though it was ChatGPT and you let it go to ChatGPT. The fact that it was done through Apple Intelligence, people are going to freak out, and it'll be a PR nightmare. And then I also think from a security standpoint, Apple's always been so gung-ho on security, which is awesome, right? That I think it's a little bit detrimental to the experience of an assistant, of an AI assistant. So, I don't know. I think that Apple has to like open the floodgates a little bit more, but at the same time that goes against what they've been building for 20 years from a privacy perspective. And I just don't know what the solution is, because they're marketing it like crazy. They want it to work. They want it to be beneficial to everybody, but under, like you said, under their lens and under their kind of stringent requirements.
Right, because the prompt, because if you look at the debug screen, you could see like all of Apple's like the parameters they put in is very Apple-like. Like it's like, don't respond with. I mean, it's very particular about the way it wants to respond. Like, don't refer to the image as an image when they respond. Like, it has to be. It's like, wow, this is just kind of eye-opening to see the filter, so to speak, for lack of a better word, I guess. That they put your query through, basically. So it'll be interesting to see if Apple eventually allows us to adjust some of those parameters to give us a little bit more control over the response that ChatGPT sends back, or if it's just going to be like this. But right now, it's not instilling a lot of confidence just based off the differences when you compare the response you get from the ChatGPT app versus the response you get from Siri via ChatGPT. It's just, there's differences there for sure.
And even to go away from the ChatGPT integration, even things like the image playgrounds and the Genmojis, and it's a good segue into the Apple Invites app, which we'll touch on in a little bit. But, I put in playing with the Apple Invites app, one of the features is that you can use image playgrounds to create a background for your invites, right? So what I wanted to do was to test it out, was create a Super Bowl invite. And I wanted to have like a football, an eagle, and Eagles and Chiefs. It's like something related to them, color-wise or whatever. And I tried for like a solid 10 minutes, and it could not give me something good. It was insane. It would give me like a random eagle. It would give me myself with like a football. It couldn't do both of them. And I don't know if it was because it's based off of IP, like the Chiefs and the Eagles, and they're not allowed to use specific IPs and things like that. But it didn't work well. It did not get. I basically ended up going to Google, grabbing a picture, and using that as my background because Image Playgrounds didn't do what I wanted it to do.
And so you can't even do something. Those video games and advertisements where the player is obviously, maybe he's a player for the Lakers, but he doesn't have a Lakers jersey on, but you can clearly tell that it's meant to be a Lakers jersey, right? It's purple and gold, but it doesn't say Lakers anywhere on it. Just like a generic jersey. That's, at least you would think you could do something like that, but no, apparently you can't even do that.
So, I mean, we'll see how it ends up going. I do think they've gone too far to just come back. Like, they got to keep going with this. They have to figure out a way to get this done correctly. Yeah. So, I mean, we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it plays out at the end of the day. I do think they'll figure it out. It's just a matter of how it's going to happen. And again, they marketed this to us at WWDC last year. It's been almost we're going on, what, 9 months since it being marketed to us? And it was marketed with the new iPhones. And we still don't have a lot of the features that were promised early on.
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking of that, I mean, so that is what is coming up. You mentioned the Invites app. We'll talk about that in a second. But 18.4 is supposed to be, I don't know if so much the last. It's one of the final like major pillars of Apple Intelligence rollout, the initial rollout, and that's what's going to bring the Siri, like the improved, enhanced Siri aspect of Apple Intelligence, like things like on-screen awareness for Siri. So Siri being able to know exactly what you're looking at, and you'll be able to say, like, say someone texts you an address, instead of having to copy, paste it, or tap the address and go through whatever you're going through, you could just simply say, add this address to such and such contact, and it will do it.
Yeah.
Supposedly, right? Like, I'll believe it when I see it, honestly, because that seems like that seems pretty ambitious for Siri. Like, given the state of Siri and just the history of it, that seems like an ambitious thing. But I would love to be wrong about that. I would love that works super seamlessly. But that's the type of things that Apple Intelligence, the new features in 18.4, is supposed to bring to the table. But not just that. There's these new app actions that allow apps to be interacted with without even launching the app itself. So, for instance, you could say, find the photo of me snowboarding and remove the man in the background, and then send that to Fernando, and it'll do all that, or add it to the Files app. Like, and that's without launching the app or anything. Like, that's pretty ambitious, man. Like, that's really ambitious.
It's going to be sick once it happens. It's just a matter, like I said, how do we get there? Because that is very ambitious, especially when you're looking at where we're at right now with Apple Intelligence. And obviously it can be done because there's apps that do it already. Like, I played with Gemini, and there were, again, it's not like super free-for-all, but the parameters and the parameters that it already can handle, especially with first-party apps and like Samsung and Google, it can do that. You can ask it for a recipe. You can ask it to put it in your Notes app and set a reminder for dinner. Like, you can already do that with those phones with Gemini. So it can be done.
So that being said, obviously Apple knows that this is important. Like, they would not, like, I mean, just think about the marketing they pushed on this. Like, I mean, it's crazy. Like,
have you seen some of the Genmoji ones, the billboards recently?
Yeah. So they're all in, dude. Like, and they realize, so what that tells me is, one, Apple knows that this is super important, right? Mm-hmm. Like the whole AI thing, they realize that the branding of this is important. And I just realized that, like, the scope of this is bigger than it is right now. Like, in the future, this is going to be huge, right?
Yeah.
So with that said, do you think there will come a point in time? You just mentioned you use the Samsung S25. Do you think there'll be a coming time where people buy their smartphones not for the camera improvements, but for the AI capabilities? Like, because right now it's like, I would say a camera is a big part of purchase decisions. Like, that's a pretty major part. Obviously, you have like system lock-in, and if you're a Google user traditionally or an iPhone user, obviously, but camera is an important, like, high on the list. Now, So do you think there will be a time in the not too far off future where the AI capabilities of a phone is what really separates it? And do you think it'll get to the point where that matters so much that the operating system, the lock-in for that, it matters less?
That's what I was going to get to, because I do think that if we paint this picture of Apple's still like slow behind, and now we're 2-3 years into Gemini and Google Assistant, and especially like with the AR VR stuff, like that video, the Project Muhan, and being able to use the AI assistant to pretty much as your input method for those types of peripherals and that type of hardware. I do think that features of an AI assistant, if they are good enough and make your life easy enough, is probably the biggest thing that I've seen as a threat to make the ecosystem not matter as much, if that makes sense. It is by far, for me, it's the biggest feature that I've noticed in the last like 10 years to be like, hey, this actually could pull somebody away from the Apple ecosystem if Apple doesn't figure it out compared to the Googles and the Geminis of the world. Because I think they're kind of the same, but they're different. But yeah, that's what I think it is. Because those action models, I think they're going to be very, very helpful to a lot of people.
Do you see that? How far off do you think we are from that?
Not that far. From what I've seen on the other side, it's not that far away. But then again, there's got to be a reason. There has to be a reason why Apple isn't up to par. And I don't think it's just like they have worse developers or like they don't care enough about it. I think there's something like you said, like you saw with the back end and the parameters that they put together and the requirements. I do think it's more so Apple's protocols making it harder to do this correctly in the way that they wanted to. Sure, they weren't, and I think it's going to be the same idea of Apple's not first, but they usually do it the best. And I think that's the avenue they're going with. It's just weird because they've been marketing it to us so early on. I think it's going to take Apple a while.
In this case, they're not first, and they're not the best.
Yeah,
like they're neither one, and
I do think eventually they'll get it right. I do believe that, but they got to be careful.
But I'm skeptical just because of Siri. Like, and you think about like home assistants and things like that. Like Siri still frustrates many people today.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, can we say that they've gotten Siri right after? I mean, they were the first, right? Weren't they the first? Like, I know they purchased Siri from another company. Like Siri was its own standalone app at one time. I had it running on my phone. Yeah. So just like with ChatGPT, like is its own standalone app. Siri was its own standalone app. Apple purchased Siri and integrated it with the iPhone 4S launch. And I remember that, like at the time, I remember the first day I had the phone and me and my friends, I mean, we couldn't stop playing with it. Like it was just like all day long, we were just asking Siri various things. And it was super like rudimentary back then. But still, it was like, wow, this is cool. Like this is the future. Now, how many years has that been? Like it's been over a decade,
for
nearly.
Sure. 12, 13
and
years.
We still look at Siri as like sort of, I mean, it's better, but there's still a lot of negative stigma with it. So with that being said, how confident should we be on Apple Intelligence? Because number one, they were late to the party. Like they didn't realize this was a thing. Like there was some, I can't remember where it was. Craig Federighi. He was using Microsoft Windows Copilot, and it like hit him like a bag of bricks. That this is like, yeah, we should probably have done that. Started doing this. Now, to be fair to Apple, they've been using machine learning for years, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like they haven't been in AI for a long time. But the whole AI as an assistant, as a helper sort of thing, that sort of side of the coin is what they kind of missed the boat on initially. And it's just, I'm not super confident based on the experience with Siri right now. Like I'm still not even super confident if I ask Siri to turn on my light that it will, if I had to do that 10 out of 10 times, would you bet your life on it that it would do it 10 out of 10 times? No way. No way.
Not even like 7 out of 10 times. You know?
Unless you just don't like life. But yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like but hearing you say that as someone who just used the S25, and I know you are much more involved in AI and using ChatGPT for like just for practical reasons. Like you do
very
that
very practically. Yeah.
I don't. So it's interesting hearing your perspective on that because you're someone who does use this stuff and sees practical value in it. And then for you to say, well, it's not that far off, and to compare your usage with Gemini and all the things it can do, wow, it's kind of eye opening.
Like I've started to shift my like I've been Googling things less and less. And like for instance, I just mentioned my daughter had a fever. So instead of going to Google and typing in the symptoms to see what she had, I asked ChatGPT. I went into I was like, I have a X-year-old. She has these symptoms. What could it possibly be? And like, what should I do? And it told me what the possibilities were. And it said like, give her like water, make sure she's hydrated, like all the little, steamy showers, blah, 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 blah. And that's who I've been going to. Like it's a person. That's where I've been going to for like Googling nowadays. It's been a recent shift, definitely a recent shift, but it's easier for me to have those kind of like conversations, and then I could just like expand on that. Like I don't have to like click through links to find the information that I need,
Yeah.
So that's again my practical use cases. I don't go much beyond that.
Yeah, and technically Siri should be able to do the same thing, like, but it can't just yet. Like it's still.
I think it needs to be a standalone app. I think it needs to be. I get that you want it to be part of the native OS and you want it to sit on top of everything, but for those practical conversations, there needs to be an application where I can go back, look at my history, have different conversations, go back into those old conversations to then reignite those conversations if I need to.
Absolutely. There needs to be and I don't understand why that hasn't been a thing yet, because how useful, it's like using a terminal window and not being able to look at your history in your terminal.
Exactly.
Like I do that all the time. Recall what commands I typed in. Why can't we do that with Siri? Like that Siri should be a standalone application. Absolutely. 100%. And especially now with this integration, like you should be able to go into your history. You should be able to like basically tweak the parameters that is being used. You should be able to tweak all sorts of things. Like this should have been a standalone app. And I know that you have Siri settings, but it's not quite the same like having an actual app that was still linked to the side button, right? Like you can still, and it's still, that app is integrated within the OS, but it still is on standalone app too.
Yeah,
I just think that makes so much more sense.
Even with like writing tools, like the writing tools, sometimes it works. It'll give you a summarization, or maybe if you want to change up the verbiage, it'll change it for you. But then if you want to add a secondary change, or like add a third change, or maybe go back to another one, it breaks. It's not as, it just doesn't work.
It needs a history. Yeah, it needs like an undo history.
Yeah, and you can do that in ChatGPT. You can go 10 steps deep and then go back to step 2 and just restart from there because you didn't like the outcome of step 10. So we'll see. We'll see. But hey, Apple, I believe in you. Don't worry, I haven't lost faith.
Yeah. I mean, and who knows? 18.4 may surprise us, maybe, because that is really that's really the showstopper. Like, I don't say showstopper. That's really the thing, right?
Yeah.
18.4.
Everything else has been like for fun. This is going to be the useful one.
Yeah.
Ideally.
And because it hasn't been super duper useful thus far. Genmoji is, fun, but even that is sort of like, it's been a while since I've done one. And
I do think the visual intelligence with 18.3 helped out a little bit, being able to like finally take pictures and get stuff into your calendar that you showed off.
Yeah.
So that was a big one, I think, because it wasn't working with 18.2 in terms of a practical use case. So let's see what 18.4 brings.
Yeah. With that being said, man, I think that's a good conclusion.
For sure.
For this episode. So we have a lot on the precipice. 18.4, hopefully. iPhone SE announcement, practically, or potentially.
Potentially.
And then other stuff too. Other stuff on the pipeline for sure. Yeah.
No, yeah, absolutely. And if you guys want to see some stuff on the 18.3 recap, maybe the Apple Invites app, we got videos on that already, so go check those out. Because I do think the Invites app is it's like the Journals app or the Sports app. It's like nice to have a native application that does that.
Yeah, definitely check out Fernando's videos. Nice overview of that. Yeah. So, be sure, guys, if you appreciate this podcast, then hit up Apple Podcasts and give us a review. It's been a while since we've had some reviews, so give us a review. Be honest. If you don't like the show, then leave us a 1-star. Leave us a 1-star. But if you do like the show,
my mom leaves a review.
Leave us a 5-star if you do like the show, and leave an actual review as well. The suggestions or whatever you think about the show. And also subscribe on YouTube as well. And we also have channel memberships. We just had a new wallpaper.
People have been loving it.
Yeah.
I tweeted it and I think it got like 3,000 likes. People, every other comment was like, where do I get that wallpaper? So jump on there. Shout out Bauer.
Yeah, for sure. So until next time, folks, we will see you later.
Peace, everybody.